Mashup Day 2. By now, you should have saved your 10 layers in Photoshop, one on top of the other. Today, I'm going to show you how to resize each layer and take the background off where you need it. So I'm going to start by going to Photoshop, to my project that's already open. I've got 10 layers here, and the first thing I'm going to do is hide all of the layers except for my background. And I'm doing that by clicking the little eye on each layer. So when it's clicked, you can see the layer, and then when you click it again, the layer's not visible. So I'm going to start with my background. I don't need anything done to my background, so I can hide it, so I know that it's there. If you like seeing it, leave it visible. If not, hide it. I find that it's a little easier if I hide it as I go. So there's two ways that you may need to take the background off of things. The easy images are the ones that already have white. So if you look at this picture of a hand with a cell phone, already the background's white. So I'm going to need to take off that white background. So what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to click on the magic wand tool. Oops, I'm on the wrong layer. You've got to make sure you're on the right layer. So I'm on the layer with the cell phone. I click on the magic wand tool and I'm going to click the background. And what's going to happen with the crawling ants is it's going to select all of one color. So it's selecting all of the white. And if I want to zoom in closer, I can hold down Shift and I can get that little area on the inside, okay, as well. So that looks pretty good, and I'm going to say Edit, Cut. And now I can see that the hand looks pretty good. It's not perfect. It does have a little bit of white around the outside, but I know that when I click on the Move tool, eventually this is going to be in someone's hand. So instead of, I might put this in instead of the fork in her hand. I may put it on somebody else's hand, okay? But there's going to be a cell phone in here. And it's going to be small enough that I'm not going to worry about the white for now. So that looks good. So I'm going to hide this layer for now. Okay. The next thing I'm going to show you is the Coke can. So the same thing happens again. So I would click on the magic wand tool. I'd make sure I'm on the layer with the Coke, and I'd select the background. Now sometimes what happens is this. Sometimes, especially when you have a light colored object, you click the background and it selects too much. So not only is this selecting the white, it's selecting a lot of the light grays. So in that case, you go up to the tolerance. Anytime you click on a tool, the options pop up. So when you're on the magic wand tool, the tolerance, how much of a range of colors does it select? If you make the number smaller or lower, it's going to select less. So that's selecting 10%. And I still want to get that shadow, so I'm going to view, zoom in, and I'm going to hold down Shift, and I'm going to select that shadow, and I'm going to say Edit, Cut. So now I can see that the Coke can looks good. So now I can make the Coke can smaller and figure out where I want to put it on the table. So that's how you take out things with the white background. So I was able to do that with the Coke can, and I was able to also do that with the hand with the cell phone. And as I work, I'm going to want to say Save. File, Save. Now, some things are a little more complicated. So let's go to this wave, okay? Now, let's say I only wanted the wave. Now, for me, personally, I would get distracted by having other things open. So I would hide the background, and I would make sure I've clicked on the layer with the wave, okay? Now, there's a couple ways that you can take off the background, all right? The first tool that you can use is the Quick Selection tool. The Quick Selection tool right here, and you go to Quick Selection tool, and you can click, and it sort of automatically does an area, okay? But if you look here, it's selecting too much. So in that case, I would say Select, Deselect, and I would go ahead and try it again. Still taking too much. One thing I do when it does this is I really like this tool, but sometimes it selects too much. So it selected this part. And if I cut this out, it's going to cut off part of the wave that I want. So I often say Select Inverse. So now it's selecting this section, and I sort of push this out some. So I select the opposite section, and then I say select inverse again, and then I say edit cut. So that would be one way to take out the background, okay? Select, deselect. Another thing you could do is you could try to use the magic wand, okay? Now, that may not be as good and it may not take out as much or as cleanly, so I could go ahead and make the tolerance bigger, and that's taking out too much. 60 would be too much. Let's try 40. 40's not bad, still a little too much. So I might play around with it until I got an amount that works for me. Okay, so there, 30 worked pretty good. So I may cut off that much. And then here are some other tools that you can use. The eraser tool. Again, when I click on it, I can change the options. So I could use the eraser tool for sections. Especially, you may not be able to tell now, but when the background pops up, you'll see I've got that little edge up there. Do you see that? So I'm going to take that out. The next thing I can also do is there's the magnetic wand tool, and I'm going to use that next. So if I go in, view, zoom in, so we've got the eraser, you've got the magic tool, magic wand tool, you've also got the quick selection tool. If you go onto the lasso tool and you right click, you can do the magnetic lasso tool. This is a little tricky, but basically you click around the edges of a section to select it, and then you can cut it out. Usually I really zoom in if I'm going to use this tool. Too often I see people doing things on Photoshop and they're not zoomed in. Now so far this is pretty good. I'm worried that I'm going to mess up, so I usually take a little section at a time. I double click and then I say edit, cut, okay, and then I say view, zoom out. Now later on I'm going to add this to my picture, the wave, and I'm probably going to make it, I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet. I might put it in a wine glass, I might make it transparent, I might have it coming in from the side, but for now I'm just working on taking the background out. So that's what you're going to be doing today. You're going to be taking out the background, and you're going to use the following tools. You can use the magic wand tool, you can use the quick selection tool to take out a section, okay, edit, cut. You could use the eraser tool, okay, or you could use the magnetic lasso tool. So you've got all of those tools at your disposal to sort of work through and cut out each of your images nicely. Don't worry about combining them, that's next time. But for today, that's how you're going to take the background out of your images.